Alright folks, hello and welcome back to Downstage Gaming. I'm your host Josh, and this is part 17 of our Let's Play of Head as Code. Let's see, when we last left off, we had followed our path here to a very weird death that feels pretty stupid on our part, especially given that we didn't realize what had happened. Jasmine had gotten shot accidentally by Ray as well, and then we brought her collar with us into a room while we were trying to hide a gun. And then me, Marco, just got our heads decapitated. But anyway, so we're going back to this point, where we were deciding who is going to go with who. Last time we decided to go with the Marco. Okay, so if I just go right to this, is this just gonna... I spoke with Ray, things would probably continue. I had to make sure that that was what I really wanted to do right now. It is. Okay. It's funny, because it doesn't always give me that confirmation. Like, the time that I went with Marco, it gave me a little exploration thing, and then I talked to Marco, and it skipped it right away. Alright, so I feel bad about this, or I feel weird about it, because I know that for some reason A wants to go with Marco, and I don't know why that is, but knowing A, Agnos, it's going to be something bad. But we got to go down this road, so here we go. After much reflection, or as much as I could give the thought right now, I decided to stick to what the old man wanted. It didn't matter anyway, since if their group found the 9th person, Marco wouldn't leave without me. I don't know. Well, you know, we had a good friendship moment with Marco last episode, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I guess I'll take the next station with E. You two can leave at this one. Take care of her, yeah? Of course I would. How dare you, Marco? Wasn't some kind of creep or maniac. I don't think that's what he was. Jesus, Simon. I gave a half-hearted wave as they disembarked, but neither noticed me. The two of them disappeared beyond the doorframe. That's gonna be the last time we see Marco, isn't it? Marco's dead because of what we just did there. Then we were off again. I wonder what we'd find once we were at our station. I knew it was a theater, but I didn't know what it meant. Every time I thought about those stations, I always wondered why? How? Once more, there was no theater readily in the open through any of the stairs leading up from a station. Those stairs normally took us to the gates, which we went through by using a metro pass. They didn't lead us to random rooms like these. What are you up to, Smiley? What's your game here? The rhetorical question received no answer, and finally we landed at the station the blind girl and I were to leave at. I prepared myself to use the pens. I didn't need them for this first part, since the girl followed as soon as I grabbed her hand. Yeah, normally hand-holding could be a lot more embarrassing if you were like 16 years old, but that's how you act like 90% of the time, Simon. Obviously, I was an adult. This didn't faze me. That's why I'm talking about it. Whoa! The train left before I even thought about making it to the doorframe. That was fast. Normally they wait until we're inside. Maybe this is because it's the last station? Something seemed wrong with the two sides. I couldn't put my finger on what, but there was something that didn't quite match how I believe things should have been. Maybe it was just a bad feeling, or maybe it was just my imagination. It was very active sometimes, always imagining worst-case scenarios. Bah! Finally, I made my way to the staircase. With E in tow, it didn't take long for us to ascend to the theater. The door closed behind us with a soft sliding noise, but I didn't pay attention to it. By now, I knew how this place operated. None of this was surprising me. Getting up the stairs was harder than anticipated. E's blindness made it very difficult. Normally, blind people still had their ears to guide them, but someone who was blind and deaf, they didn't have anything but physical contact to guide them, right? Maybe changes in temperature, too. Seems like that would be hard to gauge, though. Ooh! What are these, like, robots? What is this? Weird box? This is a creepy room. This is immediately off-putting. Either way, once we arrived there, I took in the sight with my eyes, as I was not blind. It definitely was a strange scene, straight out of a horror manga. It was a miniature theater. Its seats were full. Well, no, this is half full, at best. Tons and tons of robots lined up, immobile, facing towards the stage. Some of them had half fallen over. Many of them were amputees. Yeah, I had noticed that. Some of them are missing legs. Try to find if there's one missing arms. I think that one's missing its right arm. I approached one and examined it closely. Eep! Watch out! I almost fell! I was about to excuse myself, but I refrained from it. Instead, I helped her to a seat on the front row before I went back to examine the robot. Don't ask me questions about this one, E. You don't want to know. As usual, she wouldn't be much help. We would not have solved the gymnasium without E. How dare you, sir? I observed the tin can for a bit, but there was no movement, no recognition of its space. I was turned offline, if it even worked at all. Huh. Fake robot people, huh? I guess it does look kind of disconcerting at first. And I mean, obviously this is making me right away think, again, about, in this timeline, our discovery of H's head after Ray comes back with that. And it having seemingly robot parts in it? I don't know. I wrote onto a piece of paper to inform E of the situation. While she read it, I pushed onto one of the robots to test its weight. Maybe they actually were just empty shells. No, it was somewhat heavy. Tons of cogs and wiring were on the inside, probably. A theater, correct? Somehow that doesn't sound too reassuring. Don't you have that same feeling, too? I did. Everything in this room felt strange. My steps brought me closer to the table set up on the stage. It was the thing that stood out the most. I mean, there's a light right on it. On it was a box with a piece of paper. It had nothing written on it, but I could faintly make out some markings. Also, it wasn't completely flat to the surface of the table. Something was under it. I flipped the sheet over, thinking nothing of it. Almost instantly, some stock applause noise came from the crowd. Oh, that would freak me out. That would freak me out very badly. I recognized the sound as being stock, since it was like one of those old sitcoms. I didn't know why they applauded, though. A screen at the back of the area lit up with a few numbers. At first, it had shown 10 o'clock, but soon, or maybe 10 minutes or 10 hours? It must be 10 minutes. Soon it rolled down 9:59, 9:58, 9:57. It was a countdown. Huh? What does that mean? I quickly read the paper over while disregarding the object under it. I would get it momentarily, but first I needed to understand what I had unwittingly triggered. 10 minutes to make a choice determining everyone's survival. Oh, good! Sacrifice me, or use me to leave. The former lets you both live. The latter will damn your partner. If time's up, all will die. Okay, so when we say everyone's survival, are we just talking about us two, or are we talking about everyone that's here? All will die? What does that mean? Us both, or everyone? Okay, you're wondering the same things I am, Simon. I set the paper aside. My questions found no answers. Looking at the table, I saw a key with a loop that loosely resembled the number 9. Huh. Is this the number 9 we're looking for? Wasn't it a person? How do I sacrifice it? Using it would just... I took a glance over at E, still sitting, quiet, unaware of the situation. That was what we'd searched for, but it would damn her. No, it would kill her. I refused to mince words. Desperate for help, no matter the form it took, I shoved a hand into my jacket. There, I found my cap, and I hesitantly put it on. He had mentioned this an episode or two ago. What's the deal with this hat? It feels like it has some sort of, like, weird emotional significance or something. I hated wearing it, but maybe this would help me find a way out of this mess somehow. My special thinking cap. There has to be some other way. I need to seek a way out. You know, crack the code, if you will. And seek a way out. Isn't that the thing that's used in that same format for 999? Okay. Jesus. Well, luckily, I don't think we're actually timed here. So, it's just for narrative purposes. Let's chat with you. I couldn't talk to her. I couldn't tell her. I knew I should have asked for her input too, but this was too... It was too... I didn't know what, but it was too much something. Information could be like a curse, right? There exist information hazards, where simply knowing something would cause you harm. This was one of those. I wanted to ask her, but I really couldn't afford it. I mean, more than anything, I think it's just the time it would take to communicate this is not... It's too much. The pain of this choice wasn't hers to bear. That's right, it wasn't hers to bear. It also wasn't my pain to bear, either. Neither of us, nor anyone else in this place, should have to handle this whole situation in the first place. I clenched my teeth in disgust. This place was horrible. The timer was counting down still. I could see it. This was a choice between a living person and leaving this place. This place was horrible, but leaving it would be horrible too. What a dilemma. A real zero-time dilemma. The more I thought about it, though, the more it made sense not to use the key to leave. Where there was life, there was hope. All this thinking had taken its toll on the time I had left. Soon, there was almost none of it. I held my head in my hands, squeezing tightly. Damn it! Damn it all! What could I have done? The more I tried to get back to the search, the more I decided that sacrificing E wasn't something I wanted to do. I didn't have a choice then. The timer was ticking down. I had to pick now. The only option I believed was fine was this one. Now, see, and that's weird, because again, that feels like, along with the music cue changing, that, like, there should have been a choice there, but instead we just had one default. I couldn't abandon E. I could never do that. As much as I wanted to leave, as much as I wanted to escape this nightmare, she was stuck in it as much as I was. Not to mention, sacrificing someone else for my own gain? That wouldn't win us this strange game. The victory conditions were absurd to begin with, but I didn't have the time to think about that yet. Right now, I had to focus on the issues at hand. The timer was almost up. 10 minutes would soon have passed if I did nothing. And so, I took the key with a clear conscience, and I pushed it down into the box. When it fell to the bottom, the hole closed, and a small green light lit up on the back, signaling it had registered my choice. Applause rose from the crowd of robots again. Of course, they were the same stock sounds as earlier, and they didn't really come from actual people congratulating me on doing the right thing. Despite that, it felt like they were telling me I took the right path. That now, everything would be fine. The screen lit up on the back of the room behind the desk. One glance at it made it obvious Smiley was supposed to show up at this part. Was he going to congratulate me? It's been so long since we've gotten to hear from Smiley. This is great. By valuing the life of someone else over your own, you won. You've managed to expose your selflessness, which is utterly commendable. But you did not win the dating game. You may believe this to be unfair, but betrayal is part of life as well. It is not betrayal from me, however. You have betrayed yourself. Still, perhaps, in a corner of your mind, you believe this to be acceptable. Once again, it is utterly commendable, and yet, the play is over. You may applaud, as you will now spend eternity within this cage of your own making. I do hope you have given your due farewells to your friends beforehand. So, immediately the thing that my mind is racing to is if this relates to anything else we know of already. There was the time that we came here with E in a timeline the door was closed, but we don't know how somebody could have already gotten here. It didn't make a lot of sense. I remember that. I feel like it's possible that A had come here during that very first bit that we went through. I guess the main thing that I'm thinking of just is if there's ever a time that someone has come back alone, there's a good chance that they betrayed somebody here and then would presumably have the means to leave. I'll consider that. I took E's hand into my own until he spoke. Into my own while he spoke, until I realized he was done. In fact, he wasn't on the screen anymore. It had become pitch black once again. E was smiling, as though she'd understood the predicament I'd been in before. Whether that was the case, I couldn't know. Maybe she sensed my unease in here? Some of Smiley's words were indeed weighing down on me, though. He spoke of a cage of my own making. I tested that theory. I walked... Oh! So are we literally stuck in this room, too? I might have misunderstood that. I thought he was just talking about this place as a whole. I walked towards the door in the back of the room behind the desk, because this would certainly then bring a little bit of clarity to this room being locked and us being unable to get in it. though it wouldn't explain to us who was in here. I walked towards the door in the back of the room behind the desk. Eve was contentedly following along, still without a care in the world. How could Smiley think I'd sacrifice her? My other hand closed upon the handle. I turned it, and just like I figured, it was locked. Now that I'd thrown the key away, there was no opening this. I mean, we still got a room to explore. Maybe there's other stuff here. Still, I had to try. I rammed my body into it. The thinking man's solution. I gave up very quickly, as this only made me dizzy. Just like we confirmed much earlier at Ray's demand, I could now also confirm even the doors leading outside from each station were impossible to bust through. Only one thing to do then. I'd leave this station and bring E back to the others so that we could continue our escape attempts. Once again, I led E with my hand. I navigated my way back to the staircase. Okay, so we can leave. I went down and... Oh, this door didn't have any sort of doorknob, that's right. The only way to open it was with a code. I didn't have any code, though. I was slowly becoming more and more frustrated by the moment. Okay, maybe we are trapped. Was there something I overlooked? I went back upstairs with E, taking a quick glance in the bathroom at the end of the hall before entering the theater again. I did the right thing. I was sure of it, and not even Smiley could make me budge on that stance. Yet the door was completely closed now. The lock was still there, and I had no way to undo it. The key was already used up. There was only one door back, strangely enough. Normally, each station covered the entire room overhead, right? So you could go down both sides, but this one only had one door. Only one accessible side. I had no idea what this meant exactly. Is there something wrong? I considered how I should tackle the problem with E. Clearly, we weren't going anywhere anytime soon. But since this was the end of the line, I thought perhaps someone might stumble onto the station and help us from outside if I waited long enough. Or maybe there was a secret passage. I wrote a message to E. I was going to search around a little further. E beamed at me, deciding to leave it in my hands, as she was of no use otherwise. I'll stick around then. We've got some comfortable seats here. I left her in one of the theater rows, in a spot empty of robots. At least she wouldn't have to sit around these strange, uncanny machines. Yeah, this would be a pretty terrible place to be stuck in. Like, of all the rooms, too. I touched the walls. I believed maybe there was a secret passage somewhere that could lead down to the station on the other side. And yet, my search was fruitless. There had to be something to do, somewhere to go. I searched for something. I didn't know what that something was, but I figured it would be a better use of my time than waiting without doing anything. And yet, there was nothing. Nothing. That was right. Nothing. I gained nothing from this, and I lost nothing, and nothing happened. It was, in essence, not even my choice. When I was given the key to leave this place, it wasn't just a key to leave the entire subway train system. It was a key to leave this very station, too. Perhaps there was no way out. I still had to seek a way out, though. I couldn't stand doing nothing. I sort of knew what happened to people who were in total isolation. They went completely insane after a while, already having hallucinations after a few days at best. Inaction could just, at any moment, rob me of my sanity. If I was alone, it would be worse, but I wasn't alone, was I? I took a glance back at E. She was here. Since there was nothing I could do in this room, perhaps she could be my anchor. A part of me thought I shouldn't become too attached, though. Before that thought was made manifest, I had already begun walking towards her. It was a silly notion, anyway. If I left her alone, she'd go crazy too, especially due to her circumstances. I wrote a message to E after sitting down with her. I told her every event that had happened here. She looked a little concerned, and she had every right to be. I really wonder, how did we even end up in here? It doesn't matter, I guess, as long as we're still alive. Now, okay, a thought just entered my head, and it's kind of insane. I'm thinking back to the idea that A wanted to go with Marco. Is it possible that A that A's concern wasn't about being with Marco, but was just about going to that room instead of this one, which would imply that he knew that this room was basically like a trap? Possible, though it would imply some pretty crazy things about his knowledge about what's going on here. It doesn't matter, I guess, as long as we're still alive. I agreed with her. I was still alive, and I just had to think. But her hand in mine made it increasingly hard to do so. Something flashed within my head. This game was called the dating game, right? So perhaps I should treat this as a date. There was no movie playing in the theater, but she and I could do something else to divert ourselves. I wrote it on another paper. Strangely enough, she looked very happy. You know, even though we're stuck here, I think that's fine for me. Do you agree? I agreed. I readied my paper so I could communicate with her. I mean, we can only communicate so much. We're gonna run out eventually. Hey! You know what? Optimism wins out in the end, you know? We're just gonna have a good time with our robot pals. In the next minutes, we spent a while going back and forth to plan out some sort of game we could play. We enjoyed that for a while, and both of us had accepted our fate. We were at the mercy of the others finding this place anyway. We waited for dozens of minutes. That's not that long. Half an hour went by. A whole hour passed us. 2 hours eventually elapsed. By the time the 5-hour mark came by, I wasn't even thinking about escaping anymore. She and I were enjoying each other's company. No, nothing gross, you perverts. Just wholesome pastimes. We played some games. Hunger? There was none. I wasn't even thirsty. We discussed things of all kinds. Escape? That didn't matter. I didn't even care. Perhaps this was all that was important. If my friends couldn't find me, if no one came to help, if nothing else happened, then we would help each other remain sane. This room was a world of our own making. You may think it to be only make-believe, but for us, it was real. After a longer time had passed, I started to believe this was really all I needed. Everything was right as it should have been. She and I were both happy, together like this. Her disabilities weren't even on my mind anymore. Escaping wasn't on my mind anymore. Smiley wasn't on my mind anymore. Everything was right as it should have been. Who was Jasmine again? Marco? Ray? Eh? The twins? They're both dead anyways. I didn't really think about them. There was only E. Everything was right as it should have been. Darkness would be coming for me soon, but I didn't care. Everything was right as it should have been. Deep inside, a malignant darkness was growing, as if I remembered I should have been doing something, yet still wasn't doing it. It was eating at the back of my head like an indescribable horror festering among those happy thoughts. And yet I laughed with E as we both remained trapped together. As the darkness came, I screamed internally, quietly, eternally. Alright. Wow, that's a weird one. Theater bad end. Didn't unlock anything that time, though. And as reads, stories are over, years of fate, and the circle, truest embodiment. You know the drill. Whee! Alright, now it feels like there's something more there, but is there? No. Well, yes! Okay. Forced after search segment takes place at the Theater of Thieves. Simon decides to go along with a suggestion. They come to the theater. Unfortunately, all that waits him. Where he decides he has to decide between preserving his life or finally escaping this hell. Okay. So maybe this is... What time we at? Alright, we got time. Let's do this. Oh, I don't know if I like where this is going, though. Alright. Crack the code! Okay. So, I wonder if we can actually look at all this and that talking is the thing that puts us forward. Let's try it here. Couldn't get up there even if I wanted to. There was one of those robot people up there, the king of theater. No staircase led there, though. The only way to get there was through a door in the back. Unfortunately, there was no staircase leading up there, either from the hallway or from within this room. Is this inaccessible? I don't understand. I should come back with something that can help me get up there. 8 minutes remained. Each time I searched something, I lost around 2 minutes of time. Oh, interesting. Once it went near 0, I would probably have to pick something in a hurry unless I found how to leave. Okay. Alright, well let's try to actually do this then. Because I see a ladder over here, right? Can we use this to get up there? A lot of useful stuff was back there. However, when I said useful, I meant useful in general, and not useful for me right now at this very moment. Still, there was a ladder. Even if the time was running out, I could maybe go check out that back door and that door in the back of the entrance side with it. That's what I want to do. 6 minutes remained. Closed my hands and fists, powerless. Still no signs of a real way out of this place. Okay, let's do it, right? This is a lead. I grabbed the ladder and it automatically became part of my inventory. I couldn't stuff it down my pockets, but I could carry it over anywhere else in the immediate. How did the boy with the green tunic do it anyway? Didn't he carry an entire raft and a grappling hook and a sword, a shield, bombs, arrows, and a bow, and so much more? I don't remember a time that he carried an entire raft. I'm trying to think of what Zelda game we could possibly be talking about. I mean, the one that springs to mind is Wind Waker, but you didn't carry the boat. I really need some kind of bag of holding to carry all this within me. Since it was so cumbersome, if I dropped by this side again, I'd leave it here. Whether I was done using it or changed my mind about it, didn't matter. 4 minutes remain. Well over half my time was gone. As it ticked down, I started despairing. Was there really no way to avoid this horrible dilemma? Usually, when you were presented with 2 options, there was always a third, more helpful one, no? Even if we had to make it ourselves, I had to keep looking around. I needed to find that third option. I mean, this seems like it's gotta be it, right? I found a ladder, so I used it to reach this balcony. By putting the ladder at the very top of the row of seats, I could reach up there and sneak over the railing. I quickly went over to the door, tried to see if it would open. However, the handles didn't budge. In fact, the door didn't move either when I pulled. It didn't look locked. It looked like it wasn't a door. And before any smartass decided to ask if I pushed on the door too, I did! Smartass. And the result was the same. In another long look around, I realized the door wasn't leading anywhere. On the other side of the wall was nothing but empty air. The hallway outside was very tall. At the corresponding spot, there was nothing but a wall. It was only looking like it led anywhere then. This was a complete waste of my very limited time. 2 minutes remain. Well, okay, we've kind of blown it then. Damn it. Something, anything. I really need to find it. So my wonder now is if there is an actual solution here, and then there's a third option, because pretty clearly one of the options here, I think, is going to be to leave E here. I really needed to find it, no matter what it was. A door, a secret passage, please, I needed a way out. I didn't care even if it was an ass-pole solution. Oh god, please save E and me. Alright, well, I mean, I think putting this back is just gonna waste our 2 minutes, so why don't we look over at this light? What pretty yet simple lights those were. They were like half bowls and... Wait, shit, the search! I couldn't get caught up with something stupid like that. Those lights wouldn't guide me out of my predicament. Let them serve as our guiding light, Simon. Shit, I can't do it. My will is not strong enough. That was it. There was barely any time left. I had to pick now. The timer was ticking down. I had to pick now. The only option I believe was fine was this one. Okay, well, so we're back here again then? Yep. Okay. Well, at least we get to live in eternal bliss here. As the darkness came, I screamed internally, quietly, eternally. Alright, so that means that there is no leaving E behind option, at least not that I can see. So it means there's just a solution here that we haven't found. Alright, so we know that the balcony is not, not what we need. Let's give this another shot. Okay, we go with E, get here, 10 minutes, starting now. Okay. I feel like I feel like going with that, like, that's the door, right? So I feel like that's not gonna serve anything. Maybe the robots have something. Maybe there's something under the table. I am curious about this. Let's try it. This is, oh no, that's what I can use the key on, but doing it would, I refuse to think about it again. However, if I use this door, it would definitely happen. I just need to steel my resolve if this was my selfish choice. There had to be another way out of this mess, wasn't there? 8 minutes remained. Okay. So, I guess we can do it then. Let's do it. Ugh, I can't believe I would. I tried to fight it off with all my strength. Using this key would do something horrible. I still thought perhaps there might have been another way out. I decided to hold off for that point in time. Maybe if I came back to it once more, maybe then I would do it. Maybe then I would turn into a complete monster. 6 minutes remained. You really want me to do that? You know what, Simon? I do. I asked no one in particular. My body was like mush. Well, if that was God's will, there was nothing I could do about it. Put in this situation, did I really have a choice? 4 minutes remained. Well over half my time was gone. As I sit down, I started despairing. Yep. The timer was ticking down. I had to pick now. The only option I believe was fine was this one. We actually... Okay, so now by doing it, by hitting that door a number of times, we've swayed it this way then. This was it. I really was going to do it. I had no justification for this. No, that was incorrect. I had one. It was the idea that if I didn't do this, then I might end up trapped here. Then all of our search would have been useless. I would give it to her and allow her out, but I didn't want to die. She wasn't in a state where she might do it either. If I shared this information with her, I didn't think she would do it. She'd probably get scared of it, and then I would lose all the confidence I built up for this. Besides, if I didn't tell her, if she was left in the dark, if she was smiling the entire way, if she didn't know, wasn't it some kind of mercy, too? I knew I was horrible for deciding this. I didn't need to be told. I slapped my cheeks and groaned in disbelief. I don't really think now is the time to be slapping your cheeks, Simon. Was this really what this place reduced me to? If I don't do this without thinking about it, then I never will. Ugh! There! I inserted the key, I stopped thinking about it, and finally I twisted it into the lock. The door opened. It wasn't the only thing that opened. With a sickening, loud buzzing, E's collar activated, creating that cauterizing laser we were told about. I did the worst thing imaginable for myself. I turned around in my stupidity. No. I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to see it. Then why? The grim sight of E's head falling down etched itself into my head, and I could do nothing but freeze. More applause came from the speakers around the room. They were congratulating me for killing her. I felt unbelievably sick. I vomited right then and there. I hunched over, fell to the ground, and just let it all out. The more I looked at her, the more I wanted to scream and run away, but the more I felt nauseous. I had to do something. I was slowly turning insane. This was enough to trigger so many negative emotions inside my head. I thought I was turning completely insane. I approached the body. I didn't want to, but I had to. Something in me just felt bad. It was all his fault. It was all Smiley's fault. The neck was charred, fuming from the intense cooking of the laser. No! I didn't want to see, but I did. And I wanted to bring her out, too. E, you're fine, huh? I knew she wasn't, but I denied reality. I grabbed the body and pulled it with me. I grabbed the head and carried it with me. I didn't know what I was doing anymore. Maybe deep in my head, this was some kind of twisted way to apologize to her. Maybe if I did this, then she would leave too. I carried the corpse with me as I left the room, or through the door. Beyond was the scanner. I stepped through, uncaring of what would happen. Surprisingly, it didn't trigger. Perhaps the key I used really was the way out then. The headless marionette with me was a result of my actions. I brought her through the darkness. After stepping for what felt like minutes in a very slow zombie waltz, I stumbled upon an elevator. Oh, finally back here again. Numerous buttons. Numerous floors. From -1 to -28, the numbers covered all of them. All negative floors. Negative. Losses. The loss of E. I pressed the button labeled 0 at the very bottom and swallowed, stopping myself from feeling nauseous again. I wasn't looking at the body following me. It came with me. I didn't even carry it. Nope. None of it was me. It was following me like a zombie. Maybe I was a zombie too. In that moment, I thought about my predicament. Why exactly had I chosen to unlock the door, knowing full well what would happen? Why exactly had my hands gone for the lock? Perhaps it was because there needed to be the choice I wouldn't have normally made. It was a little fastidious, but I recalled in this very moment something called the many worlds interpretation of the flow of time. Perhaps the only way I could cope with the horrible situation was by remembering something dumb like this. According to that, time flowed forward until someone had a choice to make. Each option of a choice would then split into two timelines, one in which the first option was selected, and one in which the second was chosen instead. Since I had a choice between using the key and discarding the key, maybe this was just the timeline in which I used the key. In that sense, there would be another me out there in another universe who didn't use the key. Was he happier? Why couldn't it have been this version of me? As I held my head in my hands, I contemplated the idea that I was, perhaps, left in the worst possible outcome. I was leaving this place, but not in a humane way. The person who was using this elevator was no longer a person or even human anymore. They were a monster. I was a monster. A ding took me out of my nightmarish thoughts. I left the elevator, no longer carrying anything. I was never carrying anything. The body came on its own, as I said. E's body was haunting me. I didn't know what was real. I didn't know what was a lie. I didn't even realize where I was going for the longest time past that point. As I walked out of another staircase, I found myself above ground. The building had seen better days. However, I noticed nothing of that. It was like I couldn't even see anymore. It was as if there was only darkness before me. I stepped outside. The sun would greet me momentarily, and then I could go back. Without Marco? Without Jasmine? Without E? What? I laughed as I saw the state of the outside world. Blinding for a moment, the sight greeted me. I was at the station at the top of the mountain, right in the middle of Montreal. And Montreal itself was degradation, desolation, destruction. Oh, but there's a little kitty! It's not all bad, Simon! Did you see the kitty? Everything was destroyed. The sky was completely red. Small clouds flew overhead, but I couldn't tell if there was any sunlight. Chirping birds sang their sorrowful tune as cats and dogs roamed the streets. Tons of bones were lying around. Human bones. I could see corpses here and there, scattered around. Not a single soul was alive. It's all fucking destroyed! End of the world! Why am I not surprised? This is a nightmare, after all. I'm gonna wake up any minute now. I wandered through the streets, laughing like a maniac. I'd gone insane. I could recognize that fact. I wasn't really insane, but it was easier for me to cope with it if I kept repeating to myself that I was insane. If I kept acting like I was a mental case. Or perhaps this vision of the outside was wrought by E's death. Maybe I was substituting the shitty future I was seeing now as a result of my own actions, like I was in purgatory or something. This was what she died for. A fucking ruined world. Was it war? Time? A catastrophe? Who fucking cares, right? I laughed in the face of emptiness. Like a zombie, I walked around, half alive, not even all there anymore. That was me, a total shell of myself. An asshole. A selfish asshole. I wandered without a goal for a while until the beeping from my collar pulled me out of my daze. Huh? What? Are you shitting me? The collar activated and soon it took its quarry. Just as I beheaded E, it beheaded me. This was entirely justified. I'd killed her only to emerge into this fucked up world. Killed. That word was funny. 6 letters, the middle was L, the middle was L. The letter L was in the middle. 5 letters long. The middle was L. No, killed had 6 letters, not 5. But for some reason, I was thinking about a word with 5 letters. Not a word. No, close to a word, but not a word. 5 letters, middle was L. Why did I think that just now? My mind was shutting down. This was most likely some kind of chemical reaction related to death. Couldn't even see anything anymore. Couldn't think anymore. Couldn't think about E's death anymore. Liberation finally came, even if I was unworthy of it. Just like that, in the middle of a ruined Montreal, I expired. My headless body fell in the ruins, and everything went completely dark. Now you say good end. I'm not sure that you know what that means. Oh man, alright, well there's a kind of a lot to consider there. I'm going to go under the assumption that that was real in terms of the outside world is messed up. Which, you know, again, given similar stories and what some of this is inspired by, I'm not, like, shocked by. But, okay, so we don't get it skipped on a good end, then. Interesting. Alright, well, let this play out for a second, then, just in case there's something new. But yeah, I have to assume that that's real, then. Which, then, once again, kind of reframes how we might think about what the purpose of this whole thing is, right? Because then there's no game here in terms of, like, the goal cannot be to escape, right? Because if escaping is escaping into a hell world, then there's no point in that. So there's something else going on here. There's something more to whatever Smiley is doing, which, you know, again, we would have to assume. Introduction of the many worlds theory, which, you know, again, makes sense given our timeline here. You know, it always makes me think of Steins Gate every time it gets brought up in anything. Yeah, they give me this thing every time I open the game. All the events of the story really happened, but only in the world you are going to witness. I find that to be a very interesting disclaimer. Alright. Well then, folks, that is going to do it for this time. When we return next time, I believe, unless... Yes. So we are going to head all the way back to the very first decision we ever made, not realizing that it was a decision, which is the first time that we split up into groups. And we're probably going to go with somebody else. But until then, and then that's probably going to branch off into a whole bunch of other things, and we'll have to see where it goes. 7 out of 19 right now, so we're getting there. Just about... Well, no, not just about halfway, huh? We're still a little ways away from being halfway. But we're getting close. Until next time then, folks, this has been Downstage Gaming. I've been your host, Josh, and I will catch you all next time.